Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. I still remember the way they all laughed. The sound of my husband's voice, drenched in mockery, echoed through the room like a slap across my face. We had gathered at my parents' estate for dinner, a tradition in our family, though I had always suspected that the real reason everyone showed up was to flaunt their achievements, their acquisitions, their ever-expanding wealth. I had chosen a simple black dress that evening, classic and elegant, but nothing extravagant. No diamonds, no designer labels. I'd never needed to prove anything. But my husband, Nathan, had always been different. He fed off wealth like a parasite, measuring his own worth against the possessions of those around him. And tonight, he had decided to publicly humiliate me. Marrying Olivia was a mistake, Nathan said, swirling the glass of whiskey in his hand as if he were making a casual observation about the weather. I should have chosen Sophia from the start. At least she has something to offer. The words hit me like ice-cold water, but I kept my face unreadable. The room went still. Few gasped. My father's jaw tightened. My mother's brows lifted in the way they always did when confronted with scandal. But no one spoke. They were waiting to see my reaction. Sophia, my younger sister, tilted her head and gave me a slow, apologetic smile. A well-practiced look, one she had mastered over the years whenever she did something particularly cruel and wanted to appear innocent. I suppose that means we're done then, I said, my voice even. Nathan smirked. That's up to you, darling. But I think it's only fair I make the right choice this time. Fair. He thought this was fair. I nodded once, pushed my chair back and stood. Then I hope you both enjoy your decision, I said simply. And then I walked away, leaving them in stunned silence. Nathan didn't come home that night. I didn't expect him to. Instead, I found myself alone in our house. A house I had carefully curated, one he had never truly appreciated. I walked through the grand foyer, my heels clicking against the marble floor, feeling the ghost of memories that had now turned meaningless. I poured myself a drink and sat in the dimly lit study, staring at the fire as it flickered and twisted in the hearth. It wasn't pain I felt. Not yet. Not anger either. It was something quieter. A kind of cold realization. Nathan had never loved me. Not really. For years, I had played the role of the supportive wife, the gracious hostess, the calm presence beside him while he mingled with the wealthy and powerful. I had let him believe that my refusal to flaunt my money meant I had little of it, that I had chosen simplicity because I had no choice. He had assumed that because I didn't parade around in diamonds and designer labels like my sister, I must be the lesser prize. And now he had left me for Sophia. It was almost amusing, because what neither of them knew was that Sophia was never the rich one. My father had always been a cautious man, a shrewd businessman who believed in tests, in proving people's worth before entrusting them with anything of value. Sophia had failed his test a long time ago. She had been handed everything growing up: expensive gifts, lavish vacations, an endless stream of indulgences that kept her satisfied. And yet, the moment she had control of her trust fund, she had squandered it. I, on the other hand, had passed his test without even realizing it. At 21, I had been given access to an account, one that, on the surface, appeared modest. But my father had been watching. He had seen how I invested, how I handled money with quiet precision, how I never bragged, never flaunted. And so, when he passed, the real fortune, the true empire, was left to me. But I had never told anyone, not even Nathan. Because, as my father had always warned me, people only show their true colors when they think they have something to gain. Nathan had just proven him right. In the weeks that followed, the gossip spread like wildfire. Nathan and Sophia had become the talk of high society, the scandal of the season. She flaunted him at galas, draped in jewels, while he paraded around with the arrogance of a man who thought he had won the lottery. I watched from the sidelines, silent and patient, because I knew something they didn't. Sophia's wealth. It wasn't infinite. She had always been reckless, always spent faster than she earned. And now, with Nathan by her side, a man who measured love in money, It wouldn't take long before the cracks began to show. And then the day came. Financial scandal. A bad investment. A market crash that wiped out Sophia's assets in a single brutal blow. Suddenly, the luxury she had clung to was gone. The invitations stopped. The whispered admiration turned to pity. And Nathan. He was right back where he started. A man with nothing. It was late when it happened. I was sitting in the study, a glass of wine in hand, when I heard it. The hesitant, almost desperate knock at my door. I already knew who it was before I even opened it. There, standing on my doorstep, was Nathan. His once pristine suit was slightly disheveled. His confidence cracked. And behind him Sophia stood, her eyes hollow with defeat. I leaned against the doorframe, tilting my head. "Well, well," I murmured, taking a slow sip of my wine. "Look what we have here." Nathan cleared his throat, forcing a smile. "Olivia, we need to talk." I let the silence stretch, savoring the moment. Then, with a slow, knowing smile, I answered, "Do we? Because now the real game begins." I didn't move. I just stood there, letting them fidget under my gaze. Nathan cleared his throat again, forcing that same weak smile. "Olivia, please. We need to talk." I let my eyes flick between him and Sophia. My sister, always so poised, so smug, now stood with her arms crossed, her face pale under the porch light. "Do we?" I repeated, my voice smooth. Sophia scoffed. "Don't be cruel, Olivia." "Cruel?" I almost laughed. "I seem to recall the two of you laughing at me not too long ago," I mused, tapping a manicured nail against my glass. "Mocking me. Humiliating me in front of our entire family. And now, suddenly, you want a conversation." Sophia's jaw clenched and Nathan, sweet, pathetic Nathan, shoved his hands in his pockets, his gaze flickering between me and the door like he was trying to gauge how much power he still had here. He had none. "Look, Olivia," Nathan said, his voice softer now, coaxing, like he was trying to pull me back into whatever spell he thought he used to have over me. "We made mistakes. I made a mistake." I leaned against the doorframe, amused. "Did you now?" His Adam's apple bobbed. "Things didn't turn out the way I expected, that's all." Sophia made a choking sound. "That's all. You're blaming me for this." "Here we go." I tilted my head, watching them unravel right in front of me. The first cracks were showing, their desperation seeping through. "This isn't the place for arguments," I said, stepping aside. "Why don't you both come in?" Sophia hesitated, but Nathan took the bait instantly, eager to get his foot back in the door, literally and figuratively. I led them into the sitting room, but I didn't offer them a seat. Instead, I took my place on the long velvet couch, sinking into it like a queen watching over her fallen subjects. Nathan shifted awkwardly, clearly waiting for an invitation to sit. Gave him none. Instead, I swirled my wine. "So, what exactly do you want from me?" Sophia crossed her arms tighter, her nails digging into her sleeves. "You know exactly why we're here." "Do I?" Nathan sighed. "We need help." There it was. The admission. The thing he'd spent years making sure he'd never have to say. I arched a brow, feigning concern. "Help. But Sophia, aren't you the rich one?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. Nathan tried again. "Things fell apart, Olivia. The economy." I laughed, right in his face. "Oh, Nathan, don't insult me," I said, shaking my head. "You didn't come here because of the economy. You came here because you burned through all of Sophia's money and realized there was nothing left." Silence. Thick, heavy, suffocating silence. Nathan shifted again. Sophia's face was blotchy with frustration. I took another sip of wine. "You thought she was the better choice," I murmured. "Because she flashed her money around." "'Cause I never did." "And you thought that meant I had less to offer." Nathan's lips parted, but nothing came out. I set my glass down and leaned forward slightly. "But here's the thing, Nathan." I smiled slow and sharp. "It was never her money to begin with." His brows furrowed. "What?" I let the moment stretch, savoring the delicious tension. "The family fortune, my father's inheritance. It wasn't split equally. It was left to me. Nathan blinked. Sophia went still. I sighed, dramatic and lazy. Did you really think my father, a man who built an empire, would leave it in the hands of someone who couldn't manage a checking account? I gestured at Sophia. She burned through her trust fund before she turned 25. My father knew better. Nathan looked like he'd been slapped. Sophia's face crumpled. You knew, she whispered. You knew all these years and never said anything. Shrugged. Why would I? Nathan was visibly pale now, his brain working overtime. He had left me for what he thought was a better deal, and now he realized he had traded a queen for a pawn. Understood. I think we're done here. Nathan reached for my wrist. Wait. I stilled. Slowly, I looked down at his hand wrapped around my wrist. His grip wasn't tight, but it was desperate, pleading. He knew he was drowning. He knew I was the only one who could throw him a lifeline. I tilted my head. Take your hand off me, Nathan. He hesitated, but then he obeyed. I took a slow breath, my expression unreadable. So let's be clear, I said, my voice cool. You didn't love me. You loved what you thought Sophia had. Silence. Continued. And when you thought I had nothing, you threw me away like garbage. You humiliated me in front of my family. You let her, I gestured toward Sophia, whose face was twisted in shame, destroy our marriage without a second thought. Nathan flinched. I took a slow step forward, forcing him to look me in the eyes. And now, you expect me to save you. He opened his mouth, but I wasn't finished. I leaned in slightly, just enough for him to feel the venom in my words. I could have given you everything, Nathan. And you threw it away for a mirage. Nathan swallowed hard. I straightened. So no, I won't help you. Sophia scoffed. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm dead serious. Smiled. In fact, I think it's my turn to laugh at you. Her face burned with humiliation. Nathan's shoulders sagged. He had lost everything. And me. I was just getting started. Nathan stood in my living room, silent, defeated. The weight of his mistake had finally sunk in, but it was far too late. I gave him a long, cold look before turning to Sophia. My dear sister, who had always believed she was untouchable. How does it feel, Sophia? I asked, my voice dripping with something close to amusement. To realize that everything you thought you had was never really yours. Her face twisted in fury. You think you're so clever, don't you? She snapped. You sat there for years, letting me believe I was the one in control. Smiled. And yet, here you are begging me for help. Nathan inhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over his face. We're not begging, he muttered. No. I tilted my head. Then what would you call it? Silence. His jaw tightened. Sophia looked like she wanted to throw something. I stepped closer, savoring every inch of their humiliation. You thought you were playing me, I murmured. But I was the one playing you. From the very beginning. Nathan's face fell. Sophia's hands curled into fists. And then I delivered the final blow. I moved past them to a small desk near the fireplace, picking up a stack of papers I had prepared long before this night. I turned back to face Nathan, my gaze steady. Do you remember our prenup? His expression darkened instantly. Prenup. The one he had never paid much attention to because, at the time, he believed he was marrying into a modest fortune. What he hadn't realized was that my lawyers had drafted it with surgical precision. I held up the papers. This is the finalized divorce agreement. Nathan visibly stiffened. What? Smirked. Oh, you didn't think I was going to stay legally attached to you after this, did you? He looked shaken, but I wasn't done. You signed a prenup that guarantees you leave with exactly what you came in with. Which, if I recall correctly, was nothing. I tilted my head. No house. No cars. No assets. Nathan visibly paled. I walked up to him slowly, handing him the pen. So go ahead, Nathan. Sign. He hesitated, his fingers curling around the pen. His pride was still clinging to life. But it wouldn't last much longer. You already took everything from me, he whispered. I let out a small, cruel laugh. No, Nathan. You gave it away. And with that he signed. 11. Sophia's reckoning. Sophia exhaled, shaking her head like she couldn't believe what she had just witnessed. Enjoy your little victory, she sneered. But don't think for a second that you're better than me. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, but I am. And you know it. She hated that. She hated that, after years of believing she was the superior sister, she now stood before me completely powerless. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. Unlike you, I never had to steal to win. Sophia's jaw ticked, smiled. And just so you know, I leaned in, my lips barely an inch from her ear. Your credit has been ruined. Her eyes widened in horror. I stepped back, sipping my wine. I took the liberty of ensuring that every single bad investment you made was traced back to your name alone. Your assets, frozen. Your accounts, your reputation. I sighed dramatically. Gone. Sophia's entire body stiffened. You wouldn't. Smirked. I already did. And just like that, Sophia crumbled. Her knees wobbled, her face went pale, and for the first time in her life, she looked truly afraid. I let out a slow breath, letting the moment settle, then tilted my head toward the door. You both can leave now. They stood there, both stunned, both shattered, both completely lost. Nathan's mouth opened like he wanted to say something, to bargain, to beg, to fight, but in the end he knew it was over. Sophia. Well, she just looked at me with pure hatred. They finally turned toward the door, their defeat heavy in the air. And as they stepped outside, I called out, "Oh, and Nathan." He paused, his shoulders stiff. I smiled, slow and triumphant. I was never yours to lose. Then I shut the door in their faces. The days that followed were delicious. Nathan and Sophia became a scandal, their disgrace plastered across every headline. Sophia Montgomery declares bankruptcy. Ex-wife of Nathan Clark revealed as true heiress, and she let him walk away. Socialite siblings turned against each other. A bitter feud begins. I watched it all unfold from the comfort of my estate, sipping my morning coffee while the world devoured their downfall. Nathan. He tried to recover, tried to land on his feet, but without Sophia's money, he was just another nobody. Sophia. She tried to claw her way back, but without money, without power, without influence, she was nothing. I had taken everything from them. And the best part, I never had to lift a finger. One evening, as I walked through my estate, I found myself staring at the grand portrait above the fireplace. My father's portrait. He had always told me, people will only show you their true colors when they believe they have something to gain. He had been right. And I had listened. Nathan and Sophia had thought they were outplaying me. They had mocked me, underestimated me, and believed I was a fool. But in the end, they were the fools. Because while they had been busy scheming, I had been watching, waiting, calculating. And now, I had won. Not just the money, not just my freedom, but something much more satisfying. I had made them powerless. And that was the greatest revenge of all. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.